All right. Happy Wednesday. Oh, let me see here. Are we actually live on Facebook right now? I think we are. It's like Instagram ended up not going live. Oh, one of these days I will get all these platforms going at the same time. Let's see here. And hopefully I didn't end up kicking people off of the Zoom call. But if you want to hop on the Zoom call here, I'm going to drop a comment on the Facebook Live with the address of the link. And if I can figure out how to pin this, that would be amazing. Boom, there we go. How are you guys doing today? So we didn't see already this morning. I was calling agents and looking for deals. I'm up to about close to 200 agents on the month for outreach. I've seen quite a few deals. Now the question is, what qualifies as a deal? Is it just a property that somebody wants to sell, or is a deal a property that somebody wants to sell where the numbers actually make sense for somebody that wants to buy it from either a rental standpoint or a fix and flip or a burr or whatever. So I need some help here on a deal though. So an agent sent me a deal where they had just bought it last year. And so they've got very little equity in it at this point, and they tried to sell it towards the end of the year unsuccessfully. So they pretty much bought it at the top of the market, and now they're kind of stuck with it. I don't know what the seller situation is as far as if they have to move at some point in time or what, but they wanted to sell it. So anyway, the price was too high. The what they were trying to sell it for was comparable to what recently renovated properties are selling for right now. And this property it's clean, but it needs some cosmetic updates. The kitchen's pretty dated, the bathrooms are pretty dated. Like it could use a facelift for sure. Now, they don't want to bring any money to closing is the problem. And they owe about $600K on the mortgage. You know, the ARV is probably like $650 on it. And there's an agent involved here that would like to get paid if this thing gets sold. So I was looking at potentially trying to structure this thing as a sub 2 or a lease option deal. And the problem is that their mortgage payment is about $3,200 a month, and that's just principal and interest. And then if you add in taxes and insurance, that's probably going to be another, I don't know, maybe $400 on top of that. So you're looking at like $3,600 a month in payments that this seller is currently making on their mortgage. So what I want to know is, all the Pace Morby students that are out there, I want to see a sub 2 deal that actually works in the Seattle area. So we just did one down in Longview, and that's fine because the prices down there are lower. So the mortgage payments are lower relative to what properties rent for. But I have yet to run numbers on a deal in Seattle where sub 2 actually makes sense from a cash flow perspective. So I don't know if there's anybody that is doing sub two in the Seattle area. I would love to take a look at the numbers on a deal that actually works. So, and I'm totally open to input from people on how to try to approach this deal, right? So it's probably about $3,500 a month mortgage payment on it, right? The rents in that area for this size house are about maybe $2,500 a month max. Yeah, probably about $2,500 a month is probably going to be pushing it for this property, right? So you're already cash flowing negative $1,000 a month before any other expenses like property management, maintenance, vacancy, like all this other stuff. You're $1,000 a month underwater. So maybe the short-term or mid-term rental route might be a possibility. I was taking a look at some of the numbers there, and AirDNA estimates that property could gross maybe $50K a year, which seems okay, but I don't know how accurate AirDNA's numbers are. I'm not seeing what AirDNA is predicting as far as what my Airbnbs are getting in Indianapolis. So I feel like I have to, apply some sort of discount to what AirDNA is telling me there. So plus then you got another, 15% property management fee, because the property management fees on short-term rentals are going to be quite a bit higher than on long-term rentals. And so when all is said and done, maybe this property is bringing in maybe $3,500 a month after all of that, which means you're just covering the mortgage on it. So if you can't cash flow it if it's negative cash flow as a long-term rental and maybe break even at best as a short-term rental, what's the play here on this deal? It seems a total shame that this potentially the sellers are going to be open to just walking away from it if they're open to doing it, a sub two or a lease option on it. But would you buy a deal that has zero cash flow, just banking on the appreciation? Zero cash flow if everything goes well. Like if you run into any major repairs or anything like that, then you're going to be completely underwater on the profit on this. So, what's the goal on a deal like this? And this isn't the first type of deal that I have seen where it just does not pencil as a sub two deal. So for all the people that are doing sub two, supposedly, I am so curious if anybody is doing it in the Seattle area and the numbers actually make sense from a cash flow perspective without having to put a bunch of equity in it, right? So if you're doing sub two and you're walking in with, 30% equity because you're having to bring their, mortgage current that's in pre-foreclosure and it was like $50K behind, and back payments and fees and interest and stuff like that, maybe it makes sense. But somebody that's got very low equity in their deal, these deals, I just have not seen one that makes sense, not only from a single family house perspective, but even I've taken a look at multifamily, and these deals have not penciled. So if you're doing sub two in Seattle or any type of low equity deal, I would love if you just either drop a comment here, DM me, and show me how you were able to make that deal work, because I would really like to help these sellers out and this agent out also on this deal. But I'm struggling just to try to figure out how to make this work for them. So, but other markets, sub two has been great. Oklahoma, the cash flow on a single family house, I've got a few there, has been anywhere from $500 to $800 a month. So, that makes sense. Buying a property I'll buy a property all day with no equity in it if it's cash flowing $800 a month. And and then also getting the appreciation on the back end, whereas in Oklahoma, maybe you're not getting as much appreciation as you are here in Seattle, but it still has been actually better than I would have expected, even in some of the smaller outlying areas there. So yeah, I'm just getting ready to sell one there now, where I purchased it for I think they owed, I think, 155,000 at the time on their mortgage, and I just paid the closing costs on it. So paid about $3,000 to take over the mortgage, and then put a tenant in there at well, the first tenant I put in there was $1,900 a month. It was way over the market rate, and they just needed a place to stay. Their family had been living in a hotel for 3 months, and they weren't able to find anything, so they were willing to pay quite a bit higher, and the entire year up front was the other kicker on that deal. And so they have just recently vacated, so I'm actually going to be selling this property off now, and it's probably worth about 210,000 or so at this point. And then the mortgage balance is now down to about 135. So basically, I was into this deal for 3,000, cash flowing it at $800 a month, and now I got about 60 or 70K in equity in it. So the ROI on that deal was just insane. So I need to find more like that. So if anybody wants to jump in on the Zoom call here, feel free to pin the link to the comments there, or feel free to drop any questions or comments into the chat window. I'm afraid I accidentally, when I was trying to get this thing started up, kicked a bunch of people off the Zoom call again. So I need to get my stuff together. Figuring out how to work all these streaming services. Mr. Tommy, what is going on? Good to see you. I see you just hopped on the call. You're on mute, so I don't know if you're driving or whatever, but so does price vary when taking over somebody's mortgage? So what do you mean exactly? So basically, the way I've approached these sub 2 deals, where they where they don't have very much equity, and they've tried to list their house on the market and they can't drop the price. So let's say this seller had their house listed at 650, for example. They can't drop the price anymore, because after paying all the real estate commissions and excise tax and closing costs and all that stuff, they're going to be left with 605, right? And they don't want to bring any money to closing, so they can't lower their asking price any more than that. So the way I've approached these sellers is I say, hey, like, I saw your house been listed on the market. What's going on with it? And like, oh, we, owe this and aren't able to drop the price anymore, and it didn't sell, so we pulled it off the market or whatever. So I'll basically ask them, well, would you be willing to sell the house for what you owe on it? Meaning, like, they'd be willing to just walk away from it without having to owe anything. Like, so in this scenario, yes, they'd be very happy to do that. If they didn't have this house anymore, they'd be fine walking away with closing with $0, and this property off their hands. So in this case, the offer would be 605, right? And I was like, okay, well, I can offer you 605, but we'd have to structure it in a way, in a creative way, and it wouldn't be a conventional mortgage or a cash transaction. And so I'll walk them through that process and what that looks like. And so that's how I got a few deals in Oklahoma that way, where it was just basically buying it for what they owed on it, and then walked them through the process of, okay, we're going to leave the financing in place, the existing financing with Wells Fargo or Bank of Oklahoma or whoever the lender is on it. And then, I'm going to basically be making the mortgage payments on your behalf. You'll still be able to buy another property in the future if you want to. I'll have to provide documentation to whoever the lender is most likely to show that I'm making the mortgage payments on behalf of the seller, so it doesn't count towards their debt to income ratio. But in that way, I can take over the mortgage and then they can buy another house. So some sellers will have some conditions, like they only want that loan to stay in place for 3 years or 5 years or whatever. They don't want it sitting out there indefinitely. But other sellers, the deals that I've done, the seller has been okay with me basically keeping that mortgage in place for as long as I've wanted to. So basically, I mean, the price comes down to, how much they owe on the mortgage. That's going to be the first thing. And then if they're open to doing sub 2 and they have equity in it, so like low equity is a good motivator for somebody going the sub 2 route. But some people are still open to doing sub 2 because they can get a higher price or higher offer than a cash offer. Now, if they have equity in it, though, they're going to want that. So potentially you can, seller finance that equity. So if say they have 100K in equity, you could say, okay, hey, how much do you need right now? For moving expenses or whatever. They might be like, 10K, 20K, whatever. You try to get that number down as low as possible, right? So that's going to be the down payment to them. And they say, okay, well, I'll pay you that remaining 80K in equity and installments over time. And then in that way, you're basically putting that seller then in second position. So you got the Wells Fargo mortgage in first position, you got the seller in second position. And that way you're still buying the property with, as little out of pocket as you possibly can. Hey, Garen, what's going on? So I don't know if you're watching, but I've got a low equity deal that I'm looking at, and I'm trying to figure out, has anybody made a sub 2 deal work with low equity in the Seattle area where it actually like cash flows? I was just talking about the deals that we were doing in Longview, and those deals seem to work for sub 2 because the price point there is lower, and so the mortgage payments are lower. But I want somebody to show me an example of a deal in the Seattle area that has worked sub 2. So I don't know. So anyway, yeah, no, that was a good question about how the pricing works when you're taking over somebody's mortgage. And technically, I don't like to say I'm taking over the mortgage because I'm not, right? So and there was some confusion on the last post I put out about the sub 2 deal that we're working on in Longview. People were asking me about, oh, well, what are the terms on the assumption? It's not a mortgage assumption. With a mortgage assumption, you're getting the lender's permission to switch the name on the loan, the actual borrower on the loan, from the seller to the buyer, right? That's what an assumption is. And that's basically taking over somebody's mortgage, and that's not happening in the case of sub 2. In the case of sub 2, the borrower's name is staying on that mortgage and you're making the payments on their behalf. That's how I like to word it. And so it's more clear that, that seller is actually still on the hook for that mortgage. Now I'm making the payments on their behalf, and we can put some protections in place for that seller in the event that I stop paying the mortgage, that they get the property back in their name. Because, if I were to stop paying the mortgage, then potentially, that lender could foreclose on the property, and that would be pretty damaging to their credit. But there's some legal things you can do to protect the seller that will help in the event that the payments stop coming in, they get the property back, and hopefully they get it back in better condition. That's the other pitch too with these sellers, is like, okay, if I were to happen to stop making payments, not only are you going to get the property back, but it's most likely going to be in better shape than what it's in now, because most of these properties are not in very good condition. Plus, depending on how far in the future this event were to happen, a bunch of equity is going to have been paid down as well. So they quite, I mean, their best case scenario might quite possibly be if I default on the payments, they get a property back that is in better shape and has a lot more equity than when they originally sold it. So, but it's a bit more complicated for sure, putting these types of deals together. So what's going on, Tommy? Are you just lurking there on the call right now? Are you around?
Yeah, I'm around, man. I'm around. Just listening to what you got to say, Rob. Big Rob.
I saw something about you were closing on a deal, or you were looking at a deal. I can't remember exactly. I saw you post something on Facebook within the last week or two.
Yeah, just starting ground up new build
Oh, we're
in
at
Westport.
Westport. Okay.
Yeah,
What?
yeah,
Oh, that's right. That's right. It's gonna be short-term rental.
yeah. So new build to short-term rental.
Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
so we were operating one other one over there already, and when we bought that particular um property, he had an extra parcel in the backyard, separate tax parcel, and we had to buy that with the deal. So instead of letting it sit there, we're like, hey, let's find a way to build on this lot, and so that's what we're doing.
Okay. So what do the numbers look like on the new build? Like how much are you planning on spending on the construction, and what do you think the ARV and then the rental numbers are going to look like?
Yeah, so we bought the lot for 50,000. Lot was 50,000. The build was 275 for just the house, which was like a 1,600 square foot, three, 2.5, 2-story, 1-car garage. And then about another 60K for like excavation, water, sewer hookup, appliances, painting, because the builder doesn't do painting, so we do our own painting and
Oh,
landscaping. So I think all in with our loan cost, because we're doing a construction loan cost, land, build, all in was about 430,
mm-hmm.
and then it just got appraised for 580.
Oh, nice. So you got quite a bit of equity there then.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, so about 150,000 in equity. So it made sense. I think it probably will do about 60, 70K a year in rental income.
Mm-hmm.
So my cash flow like 1,500 to 2,000 a month. That's what I'm estimating.
Yeah, that's awesome.
After we do the refi of the construction loan.
So what sort of what are the terms on the construction loan look like?
It's a 12-month loan. 12-month loan, 999 was the rate. So about 10% was the rate. I think the closing cost was like about just about 20K for the closing costs on the construction loan.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just pay 10% on how much we draw per that period.
Right.
But they also let us, part of the construction loan, they let us build in a reserve where we just draw from that to make the monthly payment. So essentially we're doing this with just the lot out of pocket, and everything else is financed.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yep.
So
So we paid cash for the lot and use that as a down payment. Everything else is financed.
okay. So in 12 months for new construction, that seems like a tight timeline. I mean, how is it working with the city with permitting and all that stuff?
So we just got the design back last Friday. We just submitted for permit on Monday. So it's a pretty small town, so it's not like here in King County or Pierce County. So
Mhm.
I'm thinking it should be pushed through, fairly quickly.
Mhm.
The builder said the last time they did one in the area, because they work in the area, they said it took about 4 weeks to get permits back.
Okay, so that's a little bit better than the city of Seattle.
Yeah, so we'll see, man. I don't know. We're just kind of figuring it out as we go along. So my first time doing this, so just kind of took a chance on it. Numbers look good, and so we just figure it out as we go along.
That's awesome. So,
Yeah.
how many other Airbnbs do you own?
So I have 3 other Airbnbs, and then everything else is long term.
Term rental.
Yeah. I would like to turn everything to Airbnb though. Like I really would. It
Yes.
just makes sense for me, and the way that I have it structured, it's not a lot of work. Like probably spend less than an hour a week on each property.
Uh-huh. So
If
you have
that,
somebody else managing the cleaners and bookings and stuff like that and pricing, or how are you handling?
yeah. Well, so for pricing, I just have like a software that I use that you kind of put your base rate in there, and then everything else gets done by itself, and then periodically I'll go in and check on it and adjust it if needed be. And then for my cleaning, every time someone books my home, my cleaner gets a message saying, "Hey, someone booked these days," and they'll know to come in and clean it out. Once that guest checks out, like, so everything's kind of automated essentially.
Okay.
Um, only time I gotta go there is something wrong with the house, but maybe 3 times a year I'll have to do that.
And
So
yeah, so what do you see as far as like damages and like small stuff like getting broken or damaged?
yeah, I mean, stuff like that happens. It's like, just like any other home, right? I mean, you don't get wear and tear, but nothing too crazy. Just really nicks in the walls, scuffs in the walls. Sometimes like I get touch up paint, and then
Mhm.
furniture gets, used. So, since, I've been at the one longest has been 3 years. And the only thing I've replaced so far has been like dining chairs,
Oh, wow.
and that's the only thing I've replaced, and sheets and towels. But besides that, I haven't had to replace anything in 3 years of operating.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, my units I have in Indy, they're not too
Yeah.
far from the football stadium, so I tend to get people that party a lot, it seems like, and literally like the very first weekend that these went live, something happened to the couch, and I had to end up, getting it replaced. So I mean, my manager was able to file a claim with Airbnb, and they
Yeah.
paying for everything, but still, I was like, holy smokes, like this thing just went live this weekend and I'm already replacing a couch. So how is this thing
You
gonna
definitely
go?
gotta you definitely gotta buy furniture that's a little bit better quality, something
Mhm.
that's gonna last a little longer, so you gotta make sure it's sturdy.
Yeah. But well, I mean, it was like, I don't remember what it was. It was like cigarette burns or something like that.
Oh
That
shit, yeah.
it was it was
You still got it?
not salvaged. I saw the Airbnb.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Is it doing okay?
It's doing okay. So I'm actually I'm replacing the manager. And the thing just broke even last year, after mortgage payment and property management and all that stuff. Which given the location, I would have thought it did better. I mean, the two units grossed about 70K in rents.
Yeah,
So,
that's pretty good.
yeah, it's pretty good, but I ended up having a lot more expenses than I was anticipating. And so I'm literally just doing the taxes right now and was looking over the profit and loss statement for last year, and came out to $330 profit. So I was cash flowing roughly $30 a month. So, but
Yeah.
I mean, it was a pretty sweet deal to begin with. I ended up, it was a Burr deal. Well, it was supposed to be a flip, but it was finished in the pandemic. Downtown Indy market was completely dead at that time, so kept it and refinanced it. It praised for way higher than I was expecting, so I ended up getting extra capital back out on the refi. So not only did I acquire this asset, which is more than, $500,000, but I also got like 70K in my pocket.
Yeah, damn, that's nice.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm okay with making $300, I guess, this year on it. I
Well,
guess
it would have been more than 300 if you didn't pull that 70K out.
that's true. Yeah, good point. My monthly payments would have been lower. So it's kind of a trade-off, right? Like,
Yeah,
you want the cash flow, or do you want to leave do you want the capital back and be able to do other things with it? So
capital for sure.
yeah, well, it depends on the rate too, right? So I think at this time it was a DSCR loan through one of those lenders that specializes in financing short-term rentals. And so, but it wasn't a terrible rate. It was like 5.5% at the time. But I mean, like mortgage rates at that time, like on conventional, were like two something percent. It
Yeah,
was like when things were crazy, crazy low. So, I mean, if I were to do it today, that loan would probably be like 8% or something like that, for that type of loan. So,
yeah. I mean,
um,
I got some 6%, man. So I'm there with you
yeah,
on some
on
of the
conventional
properties.
or DSCR type loan.
DSCR,
Okay.
DSCR. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, hey,
Um,
so for this property you were talking about earlier, the one that they're a little bit upside down or they can't get out of it. Like, where's that property located at?
it's in Linwood.
Okay. And how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms?
I think it's a 4-2. It's
Okay.
either
And then
I think it's a 4-2. It might be a 3-2, but it's either 3 or 4. I want to say about 1,500 square feet.
okay, 1,500 square feet.
Yeah.
Man, I might be interested in that one if they can do some kind of sub two. And
Yeah.
I don't know, like
What?
for me, huh?
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious. Like, yeah, well, how would you approach these numbers if you're looking at it from a short-term perspective?
I mean, in Linwood, I would probably look at that and do, like you said, do a little bit of a facelift to it. Probably just, kitchen and like bathroom, something like maybe 20-25K if possible. And then I'll probably do a midterm rental with that.
Mm-hmm. It's like traveling nurse.
Traveling nurse, or yeah, it can be various different things. Like I got a townhouse in Seattle right now that's on MOK, so not the greatest part of town. But it's newer, it's 2017 built. It's a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath, 1,300 square feet, and I rent that for like 4,500 a month on midterm.
Mm-hmm.
So I just got someone booked for 6 months, paying $4,500 per month.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so that's actually a good point. Yeah, I meant to go on Furnished Finder yesterday because I was going to try to gauge what this thing could potentially rent for as like a midterm rental. But like
Believe it or not, I don't even use Furnished Finder.
oh, really? How do you go about finding your
I use Airbnb.
oh, for midterm rentals
Yep,
even?
it's a secret. No one knows. No one knows that. I'll just
Oh.
give you a little secret.
So how do you have to specify like the term is at least a month or something like that? Or
Yeah, so like so on Airbnb, you can put like your minimum days,
Mhm.
and you put minimum 30 days at a time.
Mm,
And people, will only be, what happens is people are searching for a month, 2 months, or 3 months, right?
mhm.
And they're going to have less options come up because a lot of people won't have those days because people will have, weekends booked or, days throughout their month booked. And then to look at yours, you have a big open calendar.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so,
Yeah.
when you're looking in that regard, there's not a whole lot of other options out there sometimes. And, they may end up finding, yeah. So I've been doing, so I had this place, I bought it 2017. I bought it to turn into an Airbnb. And at the time, it's my first property I ever bought. I didn't know that you couldn't do Airbnb there because there's HOA. And my agent at the time told me that, hey, you can do Airbnb there. And so I bought the property, I turned it Airbnb, and then about 2 months in, I started getting letters from HOA saying, hey, you can't do this, blah, blah, blah. And I continued doing it for about a year and a half still. And then they sent me a letter threatening to take me to court. So I took it off. I rented for Section 8 for about a year and a half. And then those people wanted to leave. And then I was like, you know what? They told me to do 30 days at a time. Let me test this out, because my place was furnished the whole time. I left it furnished, even though with the Section 8 people there, I left it furnished for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, hey, let me test this out. Let me put 30 days minimum on Airbnb and let me see what happened. And then literally 3 days after that, it got booked. And I've been booked ever since then.
Wow.
With very little vacancy.
Wow. Okay. And then, so when you changed your strategy, did you also adjust the rate, or did you leave the rate as if it was available to be booked nightly?
I did adjust the rate, so I'm charging $150 per night.
Mm-hmm.
Which it's a little bit of an adjustment slightly. So I did adjust the rate. So what I did was I looked at everybody else's price and I tried to undercut everybody else for like a monthly rent, monthly, right? So I was like, okay, if someone's looking for monthly, they're gonna see me. I'm gonna be the lowest. My place looks nice still. And then so that was my strategy, and it's been working since.
That's pretty crazy that you did Airbnb for a year and a half though, after you got letters from HOA.
I was trying to recoup back all my money that I spent on furnishing the place. You know what I mean? It was about 15 grand. So I was trying to recoup that, which I did. After I recouped it, I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm done.
That's kind of an interesting strategy though, is like if you do get a nasty gram from an HOA, like how long is it going to take them before they decide to finally,
Yeah.
act on it?
Yeah. Like the thing is, like they couldn't charge me any like fees or anything because there wasn't really anything in the CCNR that says, oh, we're gonna charge you this X amount of dollars, know what I mean? So I was never charged any fees or anything. I was just getting those nasty letters for a long time.
Yeah. So looking back on it, I mean, first of all, how'd the agent get you into that deal? Like, why didn't the agent like verify with the HOA could do a short term?
I don't think, I don't think the agent knew. And I don't know exactly what had happened, but it was a lesson learned for me for sure. So now, it was a good lesson actually, and it worked out for me in the end, so I wasn't terribly upset about it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. That's a good point too, is like, okay, if you had seen that they didn't allow short-term rentals there, you probably wouldn't have taken this deal, right?
I probably wouldn't have. No, exactly.
Yeah. So,
and it worked out, the deal worked out for me, it hasn't appreciated much, maybe like 50% since 2017. So hasn't appreciated a whole lot while everything else doubled up since then, probably. But
why do you think that is?
What was that?
Why do you think that is?
I think it's just because it's a townhouse. If I would have bought like a single family home during that time period for the same dollar amount, that probably would have appreciated more,
right?
Versus buying a townhouse,
right?
And the location, South Seattle,
right?
So
yeah, but I mean, man, 50% appreciation still isn't anything to be ashamed of either.
Yeah, no, I'll take it for sure.
Yeah,
You
but I
know.
guess if everybody's made 100%, then it's a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, it's not bad. Cash flow is like, close to 2 grand a month right now.
That's
Um,
crazy.
yeah,
You're cash flowing.
yeah, cash flow about just about 2 grand a month.
Dang.
So, and and it's like it's midterm, right? So like every 3 months, every 4 months, every 6 months, I send a cleaner there. So it's a lot less work than short term as well. And so
Mhm.
that's why I was like, man, I want to get, I want to do this again. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna have a conversation with that agent in Linwood today, probably later this afternoon. I'm gonna get some more info on what the story is with those sellers, like how motivated are they to move out of that property, and if they'd be open to doing something like either subject to or a lease option on it, just to get into it with very little out of pocket, and then they
those
can
are I mean,
move.
those are kind of the only deals I'm looking for nowadays is trying to get something with little out of pocket. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the only thing. I think that's what
Yeah.
everybody's looking for, but
Yeah, everybody's looking for that. I was just gonna say, like, I got people hitting me up saying, "Oh, you got any seller finance deals or sub two deals?" And I send them one. I've had a few in Longview, and it was like 60K, 80K down payment, something like that. And they're like, "Oh no, I only want to do 5% down or less." It's like, okay,
yeah,
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 that's what
right.
everybody's looking for right now. Everybody wants zero, like out of pocket. I came across two fourplexes in Lakewood, and the seller was open to doing seller finance on them. She wanted 10% down, but she wanted above market price for them. But this kind of goes back to, like, if you're coming in a deal with low equity in like Seattle, Tacoma area, it's like this, it's not going to cash flow. I'm trying to figure out how do you make these deals cash flow? And I guess maybe the secret is you're doing neither mid or short term rentals on.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I mean, in our market in general, with prices and the rates the way they are, you're not gonna cash flow unless you get creative. That's the
mhm,
only way that if you want to cash flow, that's the only way that it's going to work. And the thing is, not everybody knows how to operate short or midterm rentals. You know
mhm,
what I mean? It's like if there are some people that do short and midterm rentals, and
mhm,
they don't do well is because they don't know how to operate it properly.
mhm,
They don't know how to furnish it properly. They don't know how to market it properly.
mhm,
And so, yeah, definitely, if you did it correctly, that's the only way that you're going to be able to cash flow.
mhm. Do you manage properties for other people?
Um, I do manage some property for family. Just because they're family, I do manage it for them, but not typically for other
Other
folks.
other investors? Okay. So I was thinking, if
Yeah.
you have a system in place that's pretty solid and scalable, like you could potentially, take a decent cut of the rental income of other investors who want to be like more hands off, like me.
Yeah.
I don't deal with the management of my properties. Like I want to try to be as hands off as possible
I
with
I'd be
design.
more interested in like partnering on things, and where like if the deal makes sense, like I would do all the managing of the what I mean, the property management part of it, like something like that. Like that would be interesting to me. Like, for example, if we like, let's say this property in Linwood worked out, like I would be willing to somehow partner on it and take over the managing part of it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Something like that.
Yeah, I'm thinking on this particular deal, if the numbers might work, I'm just gonna probably wholesale it because I'm not looking to take on. I'm kind of getting out of the business right now of doing any more single family houses. I'm just
Yeah, that's
get
smart. That's
I'm just,
smart.
I'm just trying to be not very passive. It's not passive income. I'm finding I'm managing the property managers, looking at their statements, sending them, questions about what's this expense or what's going on here? Why was the rent lower last month that we got in? And then just
Yeah.
the fact that I've got like 15 insurance policies and I got to keep, make sure stuff is staying current, especially on the sub two deals that I got, because I don't want those lenders to get upset that, the insurance lapsed or the insurance got screwed up because they don't have the right, like there's all sorts of
Yeah.
nuances with sub two that you don't have with regular deals. But besides that, like just the fact that, yeah, I've got, 15 insurance policies, 30 different utilities, like
No, I hear you for sure.
yeah, I'm finding this to be not very passive. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna sell off my single family and duplexes and stuff, and I'm just gonna be looking now at this point for anything like 4 units and up, and self storage, and maybe mobile home parks, and that's it. Like I'd rather have more cash flow with less properties than more properties, and even though it's going to be less capital is required to buy a house, right, than a 4 unit
Yeah.
building. But then again, there's going to be a lot more work involved with that. And Grant Cardone talks about that. He's like, hey, why are you buying 20 houses? Like,
Yeah.
you got 20 closings, 20 rehabs, 20 refinances, you got 20 roofs to fix. Why not just buy one 20-unit building? You got one closing, you got one roof, one refi, one rehab, and then, then you're done.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but in the
I'm
meantime, I
thinking,
got some properties that I got to try to pivot out of.
yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, I haven't figured out how to make that jump yet myself. So, maybe when I do figure it out, that'll be my next step. I guess my goal was always a certain dollar amount for cash flow, like monthly or yearly, and that's the goal that I've been trying to get to. I've been trying to get to like 250K a year on cash flow. I mean, that's been my number, and so still trying to figure out how to get there, and then but yeah, maybe multifamily would be a quicker way of getting there. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would be I guess the difference is that, capital then becomes the constraint, right? So you likely have to bring on, equity or debt partner or something like that. And this is something like, Cody Davis is like, or negotiating seller finance, right?
Yeah.
The other thing. And he's kind of become the master at that.
Yeah.
So
I haven't heard him speak too much, but I know he's around and he's a big deal. He owns
yeah.
like some kind of resort too, right, or something like that.
Yeah, so I went to his resort when he first acquired it. He had a meetup there. I don't know, it was maybe 4 months ago or so. So I was like, oh, I'll go check it out. He hosted a bunch of investors there. And so he found that deal originally. I guess Christian, his partner, an agent sent it to him. It's like, oh, I got a deal. It's off market and seller's willing to do like 100% seller financing. Oh wow, that's awesome. So they get the details of it. It's actually on market, and,
Okay.
and the seller wants a 50% down payment on it.
Yeah.
So terms were like totally different than they were originally told, but they figured out a way to make it work. So they got another investor on board that basically put up all the money, from my understanding, to purchase it. And in exchange, they didn't want the cash flow, but they wanted all the depreciation off of it
Got it.
to write off on their taxes,
Yeah.
other income, I guess, that they had. And then so they take all the depreciation, and then Cody and Christian get all the cash flow. And the place right now supposedly is, according to them, is cash flowing 20K a month. as
Shit.
is. Yeah. And then they ended up buying the triplex next door to it, seller finance from a different owner, I believe. And now they're working on, there's like a small mobile home park on the property that's like right behind the resort that they've been talking to that owner about. So if they were able to get a hold of that, then they could expand the resort even more. But it's just kind of crazy to see the creative terms that they're able to structure in order to, get these deals closed. So
Just amazing. Yeah, for sure. Like they're out there, man. We just gotta
yeah,
just gotta find just gotta
yeah,
find a way to get it done, man. It's
yeah,
actually motivating.
yeah. Just talking to people, like, I mean, and the fact that I don't know how many units he's got now at this point is some crazy, ridiculous amount of units, and he's still in his 20s, right?
Yeah.
So it just goes to show you, it's like there's a lot of limiting beliefs that I have, at least, about what I can and can't do. And I see somebody like Cody, and I'm like, geez, like I'm thinking too small, right?
Yeah. Me too, man. Sometimes I feel like that's where I'm at. It's just too small of a bubble. It's just kind of sticking to what I know,
Hmm.
you know what I mean, versus leveling up to the next level.
Yeah, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone
Yeah.
a bit more.
So
So, all right, man. Well, it's good catching up with you.
sure, bro.
I'll send you a message after I'm able to connect with that agent, and as soon as I can get some numbers put together, if they're open to doing something creative, I'll have you take a look at it and see if it's something that you might be interested in.
All right, sounds good, bro. Appreciate it, Rob. Take care, man. Nice chatting with you.
All right, thanks, Tommy. Take care.
All right, later.
Bye. All right, see you guys. I will be back tomorrow for some more dialing for dollars. If you got any deals that you want me to take a look at, you need help running numbers on something, on another pair of eyeballs on it, feel free to drop me a DM here. Actually, we got a few more minutes. If you got anything else really quick, go ahead and drop a message in the chat here. And just talking with Tommy for a bit about his Airbnbs and midterm rentals that he's doing. So it's got some good cash flow going. So, all right, guys, well, take care. I will see you next week. I'll be back tomorrow again, and enjoy the rest of your week.